stealthy electric bike.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Berto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is a program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet like mainstream media corporations. We only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. But you know what? Before we get started, I want to play a piece that I heard yesterday on MSNBC, channel that I watch the most other than CNN. I was watching a lot of Fox this morning just to see how they're covering Houston, because, you know, Houston is a blue spot in a very red state. You know, we have Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and El Paso that are blue areas in a red state. But of course, it's a big state, and the rest of the state is actually more land than people. But hey, you know, in this country, how that goes. But anyhow, I want to play you a piece as far as to tell you why in this next election, we have to win big. And when I say big, I mean huge. And the reason I want us to concentrate, we are going to win, folks. Let me just tell you, we are going to win 2020. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Because I think people are starting to see the perils of not winning, the perils of not going out there, the perils of not doing what is necessary. So I do believe we're going to win. If you're just joining us, folks, please do remember to share right away. And what I'm doing as I speak before I get the video on is trying to get some shares in myself. Why? Because we have to make sure that a lot of people see what I'm going to play here. I want to make sure that they understand why we have got to win and why we have got to win big. Because what they're doing now with the court appointments, what they're doing with the judges, have a possibility of overturning what we know is right, which are progressive values. So anyhow, if you're just joining us, please share. Welcome aboard, Michael Rodnan. Welcome aboard, AVQ. Welcome aboard, Norman Reynolds. Thank you guys for all being here. We are going to have a great show for you today. Anyhow, let me go ahead and play that piece, and then we'll take it on the other side. I've been saying for some time that Republicans are preparing for minority rule. They know they're going to get their clocks cleaned in 2020 if Democrats do what's necessary, if progressives do what's necessary. So what have they been doing? And it's like I've said constantly, they're using the portion of our system that isn't democratic, and that is the judiciary. So what are they doing? They are packing the courts. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
The Senate filled its final vacancy on the Circuit Court of Appeals today. Corey Wilson's confirmation marks a major victory for Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and President Trump. They now have 200 judicial confirmations under their belts. The American Constitution Society says McConnell's success at confirming so many lifetime conservative judges means the bench is now younger, more white, and more male. Joining us now is NBC congressional correspondent Leanne Caldwell. So, Leanne, anybody who studied Mitch McConnell knows that this has been one of the main goals, if not the goal, for his time as Speaker, or I'm sorry, his time as Majority Leader in Congress, in the Senate.
That's right, Katie. McConnell has had this strategy and this saying of leave no vacancy behind. He's moved extremely close to that today. He hit a milestone with the Circuit Courts, or the Court of Appeals, which is the second highest court in the land, where he confirmed the 53rd person, which means no more vacancies are left in that court. That's an accomplishment that McConnell says it hasn't happened in at least 40 years. But while he has successfully shifted the makeup of the court more conservative, he's also made the court less diverse. They are more white, more male, and younger. So here's some statistics. Under Trump, 76% of judges are men compared to 58% under Obama. And as far as race is concerned, nearly 9 out of 10 judges are white compared to 6.5 out of 10 judges under Obama. Now, the person that was confirmed today was Corey Wilson, to sit on the Fifth Circuit. He was opposed by all Democrats and Republican Maine Senator Susan Collins because of his position on Obamacare and other inflammatory statements that he's made. But McConnell is walking away today saying that this is a significant win for conservatives and himself and the president.
And that's what we're talking about. We have a Supreme Court, or rather a circuit courts, and all the courts that McConnell is filling looks nothing like America. These are lifetime positions. They're mostly filled by white men that are conservative, which also means that any progressive policies will come under attack every time they're passed. So what we're going to have to do going forward is win big, and not only win big, but start talking about the courts seriously and all the remedies necessary to solve that problem. And there are, in fact, remedies. And you know what? This sort of goes with something that I did a few months ago at KPFT. And it's a piece that I want to play for you because I think I went into it in a bit more detail. So I want to play the attachment to what this is supposed to be. I sent it out in a newsletter last night attached to this particular video. So let me go ahead and do that, and then we'll take that on the other side.
When we talk about the merits of the Constitution, what I wanted to do with that argument about the Constitution.
Want to create a branded email?
That's not what I want. Let's go ahead and
hire a
get
designer,
out of that.
learn color theory, study best practices.
There we go.
About the Constitution and what Trump via McConnell is doing with the Supreme Court, with the district courts, with the circuit courts, is to explain something important to you. It's not enough for us to go out there and just say we want to win the presidency or we want to win this Congress seat or anything. We have to change the mold of the country, the psyche of the country, because there's so much that they know that most people don't. Like when McConnell is playing with the Supreme Court and playing with the district court and playing with the circuit court, a lot of people sit back and they don't think it has much impact on them. We are trying to establish a more perfect union. We are trying to establish a system that works for everybody, which means we no longer allow a plutocracy to take it all. But you know what? The American population is wising up, but they're already preparing for a wise population, and they're using the Constitution to prepare for that wise population. How so? Everybody who studied their government classes understand there's a judiciary, a legislative, and a executive. The legislative makes the laws, the executive executes the laws, and the judiciary interprets the law's constitutionality. Well, if we are going to win all these new elections and we are going to win the presidency, the only help the plutocracy could possibly have is the only undemocratic portion of the American system that was designed constitutionally. and that is the judiciary. The judiciary can take any piece of law that the legislative branch passes and the executive branch affirms and say a corporation who now owns all these judges can now say, well, that law is unconstitutional and it then cannot be implemented. We already have gerrymandering that has made the country a country that's not ruled by most. California has probably 40 million people or more, however million they have. And some one of the Dakotas have a few 100,000. And both of them get 2 senators. Wow, that's a lot of power for a little bit of people. And now the Supreme Court is preeminent. The Supreme Court is undeniably the most powerful branch of the government, and a lot of people don't tell you that. They always talk about, oh, we have the checks and balances. There ain't no check against the Supreme Court unless we're going to then implement the difficult thing that's called impeachment. But constitutionally, you can only impeach judges with either 3/5 or 3/4. I don't remember the number, which means you have to have a hell of a supermajority in Congress to do what you have to do. So, folks, the way they intend to destroy the Roman intelligent middle class is to do the constitutionally undemocratic thing, and that is to use the courts.
Okay, so I wanted to get that one out because, as it turns out, I thought I did a better job on that one than the previous. But here's the deal, folks. Here's the deal. Bruce says, what's the action plan? The action plan is for all of us that are listening to this and listening elsewhere. We don't only talk about, there are 2 things one can do. One can sit back and one can be very concerned about how bad things are or what we are unable to do, right? We can do that. But we can also do something more effective, and that is to make sure to talk to people over and over again. What happens many times, right, is that we sit down in such fear. We're in such fear that, oh my God, we can't really solve it there. So no. In America, there is still one person, one vote. One person, one vote. And geometric progression is still something that exists. What do I mean by that? If you made a commitment to speak between now and the election, between now and about 40 days before the election, if you made a commitment to speak to a person a day, I would actually say more than that, a day, that is sort of on the fence in many things or whatever, not registered to vote, and you keep that tally and you keep them on tally to go ahead and vote, and you tell them, please, we need you to do that. We need you to also do this. Not everybody's going to do it. That's why I say 5, 10 people. You'll have enough people that will go out there and start, trying to get a few things done. But geometric, that is when we talk about having precinct chairs. I'm a precinct chair for 758. And when the time comes, I will be out there also calling the people in the district to say, or the precinct to say, go ahead and talk to other people, and you teach them to talk to others, and everybody teaches the same thing. And we will do it because there are 2 things. The country is in pain, and also deep down inside, we know what we have to do. So the action plan is to take action, make calls, use your phone, use your cell phones, use your Zoom, use your everything that you have to talk to people, and just get the job done. I have sort of a thing here that I don't understand on my thing here. But anyhow, we'll go ahead and continue. Anyway, folks, so that is a main pre-program I wanted to talk about. Because when I saw that stuff about the judges, I said, my God, we have to wake up everybody and make sure everybody is engaged, because the cheat is on. It has already begun. Anyhow, title of the programa hoy, the title of the show today is Capitalism Responsible for Draconian, Inhumane COVID-19 Response. Do I really mean that? Hell yes. I absolutely mean that. Capitalism is responsible for the inhumane, draconian response that we are having to COVID-19. But before we get to that, just before I came on air, I was reading earlier today about the police in Wilmington, North Carolina. I didn't pay much attention to it. It is true that after a while you get sort of immune to hearing the police has killed another black person, the police has killed another POC, the police has, it kind of gets on your case that, my God, when is this? But then you start to see things happen in a particular manner. So what happened today? Today, and here is a piece. Let me go ahead and put that on the screen. Here's a piece. We are just gonna go out and start slaughtering them. 3 cops fired after racist talk of killing black residents. And, you know, I saw that and I was like, wow. You know, I mean, it just proves to you, first of all police officers aren't dumb. These 3 evidently were very dumb because they know everything is being taped. They also have a black police chief, but they felt comfortable talking about folks. And if you think it's doubtful, let me just tell you, if you think it's not real, I pulled up the report, and this is a report here that I have on the screen that details all the things that were said on the video. I couldn't find the video before here, but I want you guys, I'm going to put this one in the, you know what, I'll go ahead and put this link in the feed right now, because it's a good thing for you guys to go read. That is the link. I just placed it in Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. That link shows you the disregard these officers had for people of color. But most importantly, these people that are here to serve, it is amazing that they speak this way. So, you know, when we talk about police, you know, the police are really not your friend if you're a person of color. And, you know, people say, why are you talking like that? Well, because there are enough of them. You know, we talk about herd immunity, right? Herd immunity says that if enough people get a disease, everybody is immune to it. I call this police herd immunity. Enough bad ones are out there that they present a clear and present danger to most people of color. Police, and I'm saying this categorically, to all my white brothers and sisters, this is how, as a black, Latino, Caribbean man, I feel. Because I know that these thoughts are in the department. Look, I know these thoughts are all over America because the department is nothing more than a representation of America if it's not screened correctly. And we know that the police departments are not screened correctly. And how do we know that? Because of what we see. Because of these killings. Because of these injuries, you know. And I want to dispel something before I get too deep into this. Because every time I talk about this issue, the first thing that comes out is black on black crime. That's the first thing they come up. And then we have another black woman out there talking a lot of crap, meaning Candace Owens, saying, oh, well, if you look at the amount of murders in this country, 40-something% of them are done by young black males, which is true. And then she'll come and she say, and there is a 90% black on black crime rate, which is true. And then she says, but she doesn't come back and say, oh, there's a 90-something% white on white, 80-something% white on white crime too. True. And that most murders are not committed by blacks, which is also true. She don't say that. Now, that's not to say that the crime rate among black in general are not larger. It is true. But it follows a socio-economic model, a distress model. So that if you were to compare, let's say, Appalachia, where you have the same socio-economic conditions, you have the same type of errant behaviors. So if you have a community that has a much larger percentage of its people in distress, of course, all those negative things are going to show up more in that community. But the police officers, our police is supposed to be our savior. It is supposed to be that entity that when things are going wrong, when things are going badly, when we are being killed even by other people that look like us or not, that they are there to provide us the security that we're looking for. Because in as much as you can say the amount of murders committed are mostly by X, Y, or Z, in totality, the amount of murders are small. The amount of murders in this country is not a huge number. Yes, but we have guns, so it's 40,000 people or 30-something thousand people in totality, but in a country of 300-something million people. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is murders, first of all, it's not a huge problem in this country. Most people are just fine. But when you look at the percentages, it's skewed that POCs commit more because it reflects the distress level of communities. I mean, Appalachia, the ghettos, the barrios. When we get all of those together, we would have won the war. So I want you to be cognizant about that, and I don't want you to pick up the wrong type of information. Letting tokens, letting people who look like me use their melanin to attack other people of that same melanin in slave support of a small class who needs to get that message out. In other words, Candace Owen and a whole lot of other guys that you are watching on YouTube and on Facebook and all of those coming out with data that shows these type that, oh, black people XYZ. Don't follow those black people who are being used by an institution of hate to give a false narrative of what's occurring. We have to be careful of that because it doesn't solve the problem. Now, the police officers that we have out there, they are supposed to be our saviors. And when you see that narrative permeating the department, people like me, people who look like me, people who look like Brother Rodriguez, people who look like Afwan. And notice I'm using stereotypical names again. But yes, we have to be very careful. I want all my listeners, my brothers and sisters, white, black, blue, Latino, Asian, everything. I don't have anything. I'm a professional. I do my work. I've had companies. I've done all these things. I'm educated. I have college degrees. I don't ever call police officers. I never flag down a police officer. I never do, irrespective of police officers' race. Because the police, as far as I am concerned, is not my friend. It is not my friend, and I think they've done a very good job in stating, and these things that they've gotten on tape, if they've gotten this on tape from silly cops that know they're on tape, think about what is not on tape. And that is what I live. That is what we live. That is what people of color would live. So my white brothers and sisters that are in the majority population that have a whole lot of relatives and families who are trying to use a Candace Owen that says, you see, she's black, and look how she talks about people of color. Yeah, they do this, and it's their fault. And no, there's not really there's really not systemic racism in the police department. And you have a lot of people using a few black tokens to make that case. My white brothers and sisters that are listening to me, I need your help. I need your help. We need your help. We need you to be the educated ones, educating others. Our lives, my life, our lives depend on having good white people like you out there setting the record straight, because bad people come in all flavors. Candace Owen and her cabal, who are paid to make a particular racist case. So please, we do absolutely need you. We can't do it alone. Margarita Sembrano Arevalo, welcome aboard. Michael Rudnin, well, I think I called you out already, Michael, but I don't think I called out, let's see who I didn't call out. Lawrence Sims, I didn't call you out. Jen Berenjback, I didn't call you out. Bruce Pollard, I don't think I called you out. And Brother Wesley Wayne, I don't think I called you out. Okay, so this the program, like I said, you know who loves you by those who are around in your times of most need. It is clear our economic system, capitalism, does not love you. And how do we know that? Let me go ahead to our judge here in Houston about what's going on in Houston. And I'm using Houston as an example now because we are at the center. We are now at the center of the COVID attack, the COVID-19 attack. And it is hurting us all, but it is due to capitalism pushed by a sect that capitalism is using to do its dirty job, that being the right wing. I've been saying for some time that Republicans are preparing for minority rule. They know they're going to get their clocks cleaned in 2020 if Democrats do what's necessary.
The data from Houston is bad. As of today, according to the city of Houston, 97% of the ICU beds in the city of Houston are full. That's up from 90% of ICU beds just 2 days ago in Houston. Meanwhile, new infections, new case numbers are not expected to level off in Houston for weeks. And all of that together has health officials and local leaders in Houston, forgive me, a little freaked out. At least that's how it seems. A little freaked out about what these next few weeks are going to bring and whether the hospitals will be able to treat all the patients who come through their doors. One professor at the Baylor College of Medicine in Houston warning over the weekend that the city of Houston is on track to have the worst outbreak in the country, worse than New York had. The mayor of Houston saying today that his city is in a healthcare crisis with new cases moving in the wrong direction. In his words, quote, very fast. We're moving very fast in the wrong direction. Lena Hidalgo is the chief executive in Harris County, where Houston is. She says now that the coronavirus in Harris County is an unprecedented and dangerous situation. The curve will not flatten on its own, and we cannot afford to wait. Joining us now is Lena Hidalgo. She's the judge in Harris County, which is the top elected official in charge of America's third largest county, which is experiencing one of the worst coronavirus outbreaks on earth right now. Judge Hidalgo, thank you for taking time to be here tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
First, let me ask you, I'm trying to describe what's happening broadly in Texas, but specifically in Harris County and in Houston from afar. Let me ask you if I got anything wrong or if there's anything else, anything that I've gotten wrong or anything else that important we should understand about the situation you and your county are in right now.
No, it's crushing to see that testimonial from the nurse. And if there's a silver lining, it is that the hospital's operational capacity is hitting 92, 97%. But as she said, they've been working to make room, to make surge capacity and sustainable surge capacity, which gives us a little bit of a chance to perhaps have a chance at success. Does that mean we will succeed? Who knows? And certainly not without severe action on the part of the community. But the reality of it is we've been watching these hospitalization trends. This is no surprise. If you increase close contact to such a degree as has been happening here, you're going to have more hospitalizations. And the projections show that we would run out of all beds anywhere between the next 10 and 40 days. And now we know that it takes about 3 weeks to flatten a curve with the most severe restrictions.
In terms of that horizon, that sort of dire horizon in terms of running out of all beds, and you talk about surge capacity, one of the things that we have heard from other health officials and that we've seen in other places is that surge capacity is sort of, it's never easy, but it's easier to organize in terms of physical space and literal beds and getting equipment in place. The thing that's hard to manage in terms of surge capacity is the right number of trained healthcare professionals to staff those beds and to staff particularly intensive care patients who need so much attention and so much work from so many professionals. Are you at all worried about healthcare staffing levels as Houston looks toward and Harris County looks toward moving into an intensive care surge capacity kind of situation?
Absolutely. There's a reason those beds are not permanent. And you have to look at the beds, the staff, the PPE. So, we're standing up. We have a medical shelter ready to go as well to supplement the need if it came down to that. But that's not where we need to be. The idea is not to have such disregard for human life as to say, let's just wait until we get to the very edge and fill that capacity. For one, it's not sustainable. But also, this is the community you have to remember during Harvey, where neighbors were helping neighbors out of floodwaters, where the concern for human life was overwhelming. And that's what this is. It is an invisible hurricane, so to speak, where your neighbor's home is getting flooded and we need to go and help out. And that's what it takes. Is we are going to need folks to work together. Of course, the issue is, while I had the authority to issue restrictions in the past, I no longer do. And so I'm working with the state to try and find a solution quickly. And at worst, I will make sure and be very clear with the community as to what the recommendations are, because we are headed toward a precipice and it may well be too late.
If you did have the authority to issue restrictions in Harris County, in Houston, in terms of people's behavior and what should happen, what would you order at this point? What do you think would be necessary in terms of mandatory restrictions?
So you have to remember, Harris County is Houston and 33 other cities. It's a large area. And we know what doesn't work. That is the status quo. That is the ability for people to go to bars, restaurants, clubs. I've been saying we're at the second highest alert level. We've been on that for a couple of weeks. So I've been asking the community not to do that. But recommendations is just human nature. Folks think and get the sense that life is back to normal. What we know works is a stay home order. Do I want to go there? No. From the beginning of the reopening, I've said I'm committed to making it succeed, and we've pulled out all the stops on tracing, on isolation, quarantine options for first responders, on this medical shelter, work with nursing homes, all kinds of things. But the reality of it is we need to avoid being the canary in the coal mine as far as what a reopening should not look like, and we need to figure out how to do this sustainably.
Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo, let me just ask you one last question before we go. Obviously, Harris County is capable, big, very large, as you said, third largest populace in the country in terms of counties. And you guys have your act together. You guys know, you have good governance, you know what you're doing. Given all that, I'm almost hesitant to ask, but is there something that you need in terms of national help? Is there something that Harris County needs to tap the rest of the country for as you face these very, very scary numbers right now?
I hope that folks that are reopening too quickly, folks that are getting complacent, will see what's happening here and take it as a word of warning and recognize that the virus has not gone away, that it spreads from person to person contact, and that we can't get complacent with this virus. Other than that, what I need is the ability for the community to buckle down. We did it first already with the first wave. We were able to bring those case numbers to flatten them before it started reopening, and we got to do that again.
Lena Hidalgo, Harris County, Texas Judge, thank you so much for being here. Good luck. This is going to be a tough few weeks in Harris County. Please keep us apprised.
Thank you.
Now, the reason I wanted to play this interview, Harris County, Texas, and remember, this applies to the entire confounded country. Harris County is the largest county in Texas. It's the third most populous county in the entire country. It has 34 cities in it, Houston being the largest, Houston being a mega city, the fourth largest city in the country, and several cities scattered throughout Harris County. That woman, she's under 30, I think she's 29 now runs the county. She beat an good old boy that Houston continues to flood and no big projects were made. It's a similar thing that happens throughout the country. Our infrastructure goes to hell. Our healthcare goes to hell because we have good old boys in office that does nothing. Progressives ran over Harris County. She also got elected. And now in the process of trying to control a coronavirus in our state, yes, they don't want to close down too much. She doesn't want to necessarily close down if at all possible. Let's wear masks. So she passed a mask order, and in passing the mask order, we have a whole lot of right-wingers, especially, and these aren't the individual people. I love my right-wing regular people. But their leadership starts to incite them. They're trying to take your freedom away. They're trying to do all of these things to you. So they fight her, and finally the governor gives an order that supersedes the order of the local officials, which means her order is no longer valid. As soon as this order is rescinded, the infection rates in Harris County starts to explode. As it starts to explode because our governor caused it to explode, she continues to ask people to voluntarily do things. Finally, because of judges in Dallas County and I believe San Antonio, Bexar County, the judge relented and said, kind of looked for cover. How did he find cover? He said, you can order businesses to force masks. Well, when most people are going outside, eventually they end up in a business. So therefore, still they're wearing masks most of the times, but not necessarily in parks, etc., etc., etc. So that is the way he got out of allowing them to then use more masks. Now he's frantic because now our hospital rates are going up because of the stupidity, because of the illogical, because of capitalism. These guys wanted the economy to continue going at all cost. That was the reason. My concern with the judge and other progressives who have been constantly pushing for the right things to do is that, as it turns out, they are not immediately pointing that the reason for this increase, the reason for this infection, the reason for these overcrowded hospital ICUs, the reason for all these things are because we have an incompetent governor following an incompetent president and surrounded by incompetent leadership from the lieutenant governor to the attorney general and others in this particular state and other red states that are putting their citizens at risk. Not putting their citizens at risk, but have killed a lot of their citizens with irresponsible chains on responsible people attempting to do the right thing. And I think it is imperative that we do not let them off the hook. The governors must pay the price for their irresponsibility, for their draconian inhumaneness. They must pay a price. We must do that. And Lina Hidalgo, Sylvester Turner, and all these people that have been trying to institute values, institute rules to cause and reduce the possibility of the infection, they must come out and say it. Because if they constantly say it now, election time coming, when people know that the governor, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general has killed many of their family members, if they voted for them again, it's on you, baby. But I think it is time for these government officials to say, the governor tied my hands. The governor is responsible for your family getting that disease. The governor is responsible. It is important. It is important that they start to say these things. Don't wait for a posse to do it solely. I would be the posse of anybody trying to save lives right now. I am the posse. I am one in many of the posses trying to make America aware that these irresponsible government officials, mostly Republicans, are currently leading their pew in the wrong direction. And correct, thank you, my brother Pollard, and the senators, Senator Cruz and Senator Cornyn. It is important that we have the message out. Judge Hidalgo, who I respect dearly, correctly, Sylvester Turner, speak up. Point out. Point out now that it is the killings, the deaths are the responsibility of those who tie your hands. Just don't say, well, I hear you. Hey, Charlie Lindahl, welcome aboard, my brother. Yes, the judge did say Abbott shut down her policies. She did say that. Now, what I would like to hear her say, is that the governor is responsible for the deaths of many, because that is what people hear. I speak many times in civilly. I don't quite say that. But in these times when Houstonians, when Texans, when Americans are dying, over 122,000 Americans dead, it is time for us to be graphic. Our governor is killing people. Our lieutenant governor is getting people killed. That grabs the attention. That grabs the attention. And that is what I would hope that they do. Because that is what's happening. And coming from Egberto, it's just from one local, national blogger. It needs to come from other places as well. So if you have your own blog, if you have your own website, all that you're doing, my brothers and my sisters that are listening right now, specify that in your blog, specify that on your Facebook page. Governor Abbott has killed many Texans, and the policy is now on, a fission reactor. When a reactor gets out of control, you cannot control the fission occurring anymore. Eventually, it turns into a bomb. When we get a meltdown, and folks, that is what's starting to happen in Harris County, unless we'd start to mitigate this very strongly. I wrote the article title, and I wasn't done because I started to get the message about what's going on with the police and all these other things. And so I have the I have the blog started, and let me just go play my little music. I haven't played it in a while. So here it goes.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
You guys remember that? I used to do that because I used to read the blog every day, but it's only an hour show, and I don't get to do a whole lot of blog reading anymore. But I do more video because people kind of like the videos and that sort of thing. Anyhow, the title of the blog is Capitalism Response, and it's not done, so I'm going to have to make it up after I'm done. But the title of the thing is Capitalism Responsible for Draconian, Inhumane COVID-19 Response. You know who loves you by those who are around in your times of most need. It is clear our economic system, capitalism, does not love you. Does not love you. Some define capitalism as follows. Capitalism is an economy based on free markets where resources and firms are privately owned, efficient allocation of resources, efficient production, and creative destruction. I think I need to, creative destruction is when you're producing something that nobody wants anymore, you disappear, you die. That's what creative destruction means. Anyhow, to be clear, capitalism sits on top of free markets, the ability to freely trade goods and services with free enterprise. So our capitalism, that's what it stands on. But let's be clear, democracy and free markets are not dependent on capitalism. Okay? China is a capitalist country, but not a democracy, nor does it have free markets. Why am I talking about this when we're talking about COVID-19? Because this economic system is the reason Donald Trump tied himself in knots not to address COVID-19 when it could have been stopped cold like New Zealand did. We could have stopped it cold in California and New York. Okay? We could have. We could have. Capitalism can adapt to any political system or underlying basal economic system. That is why it flourishes in China, America, India, Vietnam, countries with different cultures, different values, both economic and otherwise. The reason for the above is that capitalism is a form of antiseptic and coercive slavery that is not always apparent because there are no overt whips, overt owned bodies, or overt bleeding bodies. I mean, if it is an abstraction that makes taking advantage of most very manageable, tolerable, and almost invisible. I want you guys to understand that paragraph. This is likely the most important paragraph, and I only have one after that, and then I have to wing it. The reason for the above is that capitalism is a form of antiseptic and coercive slavery that is not always apparent because there are no overt whips. Nobody whipping my black body anymore. Nobody is doing that anymore. Overt owned bodies. Nobody owns you anymore. Or bleeding bodies. You don't work till you bleed and flesh falls off anymore. It is an abstraction. You see, capitalism is nicely well defined. We have made it antiseptic. So you go to work from 9 to 5. So you do your work and then you go home. And when everything is working normally, all's good. It's like a well-oiled machine. You continue to do the work that the master tells you to do. The president of the company, your manager tells you to do. You do the work. Right? You make a lot of money for the company, but they pay you at a discount. Most of us have been indoctrinated from birth to accept our economic system as the only way. So we see our lives, our work, our existence, the ability to acquire wealth, all within this very tunnel. That's what we see. This very, very narrow tunnel. So we don't see the realities of what it does to us. We don't see that the only way Bill Gates, and Bill Gates is doing nothing wrong. I use Bill Gates because he's a likable character. I could use the Koch brothers, but if I use the Koch brothers, most progressives hate him and they look it through those angles. I want you to see capitalism through a good guy, Bill Gates. It's best to see capitalism through the good guy to see the evil within. Why am I saying that? Look, Bill Gates got MS-DOS from a company he paid $50,000 or something for. He had capital. Bill Gates had capital to start with. Rich man. And he told IBM, I have an operating system for this new machine that you guys are coming out with. He goes, buys it from somebody, tailor it for IBM, doesn't sell it to IBM, licenses it to IBM. For every machine IBM sells, he get a piece of the action. Fine. But Bill Gates' success started built on top of that guy who was the original author of MS-DOS. That guy who authored MS-DOS, knowledge was built off of the taxpayer dollar that allowed him the knowledge, the teachers and the schools who sent him to school to learn that feat. That school got its knowledge from previous taxpayers who invested in different learnings for those professors who are there. And we go with the cascading of things. So we are all interconnected. But capitalism is antiseptic in the way it affects its slavery, right? Remember, slavery is what? Slavery is holding on, having the command of those methods of production that you decide how much to pay, but you get the monies for the spoils. Okay? Think about that. So we now, in the antiseptic form of slavery, there is good and there's bad, right? In other words, to keep this thing going, we go ahead and we pay high salaries to executives, the guardians of the gate. They are going to protect the ultimate small 1% masters or 0.2% masters or whatever number we want to put it. They're going to protect them, but we keep them very well paid. And underneath there, they have another gradation. And that gradation is the managers, right? And those managers are paid substantially well as well. And then they run the other people underneath. And we keep getting these layered approach of people that ultimately controls this form of slavery. And at different levels, different pays. But it's unsustainable because if you take a look at regular arithmetic, regular mathematics, right? You see that if you are constantly building up that, if all of that stuff continues to migrate to the top, if all of that continue to migrate to the top continuously gets a bigger piece of the pie. So the rest become simply indentured servants, right? And that is what's happening now. Check out the saving rates of Americans. They can't save anything. And for those who are able to save, if they get sick at the end of their life, much of what they've saved go into trying to get better, even though they likely won't get better. And all of that then gets and who, by the way, who's collecting the money to make them get better? The corporations for whom Bill Gates is invested in, and all people who own capital can invest in. So as it turns out, we are in a steady state of decline mathematically. There's not a mathematic answer to it because it's unsustainable. Why do I call it antiseptic slavery? Check this out. When my people, meaning black people, were slaves, remember we came after a lot of the indigenous were executed for their lands now. But when they were slaves, they had to be clothed. They had to be kept relatively healthy. Why? Because that was property. You keep your car running so you can go to work. You keep if you're cutting grass, you keep those machines running so it can make money for you. So when you're a slave, your master is keeping you oiled, sufficiently oiled. I mean, we put as little in that car as we need to because we don't want to spend all our money on the car now. So they don't spend all their money on the slaves now. They just keep the slave at that optimal level that it's still productive. But capitalism, the one good thing about capitalism, the efficient allocation of resources. And guess who are the resources in capitalism? You. We allocate you efficiently. And how do we allocate you efficiently? We pay you as little as possible, and we give you as little benefits as possible. And as years go by to increase the profit range of those who own stocks, meaning the capital, of those who you work for those who are going to get bonuses, for all those people at the top of the corporate structure, what have we done? We've taken away your benefits. We've given you as little as you would work for. And given that you're now in competition with people around the world, you don't ask for much. And guess what? If you get sick, so what? You are replaceable. If you were a slave, the old-time slave, if you get sick, you are property, baby. We have to make sure you get better so you can go into them damn fields and work. But in capitalism, where you have the corporate state saying, we don't want to give no Medicare for all. We don't want to give no child care. We don't want to give any of those things. We don't want that. So therefore, when you get sick or you can't come to work, next. That's all we worry about. Efficiency. The efficient allocation of resources. The efficient production and creative destruction. So I want all of you to start thinking, whenever we talk progressives, that is, when we start talking about all the things we want to get done, when we start talking about all the policies that we want to effect, and yes, these policies will be paid by corporations' excesses. Yes. When we start saying that private companies themselves have a responsibility to society. After all, we fight the wars, we keep the shipping lanes open. We do all the things that allow them to be productive. When we say we want health care, that's not asking too much. When we say we want child care, that's not asking too much. When we say we want a living wage, that's not asking too much. That is saying that is the least we should work for, because that notwithstanding, we are in fact slaves. Antiseptic, however, but slaves. And when we realize that it doesn't matter that we have a car and a house, most houses are still under mortgage. Most cars are still under mortgage, in which your money as well, again, is being transferred. And for that new good thing out, the reverse mortgage, another way for them to take away that which you've worked your life for. So I want you to know, COVID-19, the first thing that held back COVID-19 was when Donald Trump said, I am not going to look at that right now till I get all the capitalists in place who are going to have the machines ready, who are going to be able to make a profit from solving this health problem. I hope it doesn't get out of hand before all my people are lined up to make money on COVID. I hope it doesn't get out of line, but it did. Remember, ventilators were supposed to be $2,500 to $3,000 that the government stockpiled and had contracts to pay for. But instead, we had independent states paying $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 per ventilator. That costs no more than $1,000, if not less, to build. That's capitalism. Because capitalism also say whatever the market will bear, and a product is worth whatever somebody is willing to pay for it. And since we all love life, since progressives are really the pro-lifers, we'll pay whatever it takes to save somebody, right? So we have to understand these things. COVID-19 should be something that once and for all have us diss pure capitalism as exists in the United States today, as pure as it can be, and to go into what's known as a democratic socialist state where free enterprise reign. Remember, I said, capitalism lives on top of whatever system. Right now, it's living on top of what? Free markets, and it's live in the United States. It's living on top of cooked markets in China. It's living on top of communism in China. It is living on top of what is still a democracy in the United States. Let's have something live on top of free markets that isn't capitalism, that takes care of our social being first. Let's be honest. And let's start not be scared of telling people the truth about what's going on. Let's start telling people things as they are. I'm a little bit behind. So let me just tell everybody hi. And I can't stay to really answer all the questions, but I'll see what I can do later. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. Rose Williams, welcome here, Rose. Hope Bleeker, welcome aboard. Charlie Lindahl, my brother. Curtis Jacobs, my brother. Bruce Pollard, my brother. Mi hermano, ¿cómo estás? Margarita Zambrano Arevalo. Welcome aboard. Let's see, who else am I missing? Jen Birenbach, welcome aboard. Folks, look like we were going to have to get out of here, but please remember, if you are on YouTube, please feel free to give what we call a shut up. No, what is it called? A super chat. Super chat. Show that you like the program. Give us a super chat if you are so kind to do so, to help us continue giving this message and preaching the word, because we are going to only win in America if we have an educated population, and that we can, but we have to do the necessary work. It's not going to happen by itself. It's not going to be anybody helping us make it happen. We are the ones that are going to have to do it. Please become subscribers of Politics Done Right. Please become subscribers of Politics Done Right. Go ahead and go to Patreon, patreon.com/Politics Done Right. Our subscriptions are cheap. Come on, I work for cheap. 16 hours a day, cutting up videos, writing blogs, setting up shows. I need a producer, and we need a producer. We need a copy editor. So when you see those typos, it's an overstressed person. So please go ahead and support the show so that I can get part-time producer, part-time copy blogger. Go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Alternatively, you can go contribute at, what is it called? paypal.me/politicsdoneright. Again, that is paypal.me/politicsdoneright. Of course, you can super chat at youtube.com and just give us a super chat. Or you can purchase at our store, store.politicsdoneright.com, where you can be privy to, what can you be privy to? You can be privy to our book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. You learn a lot about what we talk about here. And for those of you who know in my past weight problems, this is how I did it. Lose weight and be fit. Now I have that there too. And of course, my cup. Politics Done Right cup. And if you notice, I had my t-shirt on in one of the videos there that says Politics Done Right. So we have t-shirts, all that good stuff. So visit store.politicsdoneright.com, store.politicsdoneright.com. Give us a super chat. Give us a contribution at paypal.me/politicsdoneright, or go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Look, I know you have places to go. I know you have The internet is huge and you can go anywhere. I thank you so kindly for staying here with me, for spending this time with me. I could not do this without you. But what we all need to be, what we all need to do is we all need to preach a message, not live with the indoctrination that we've had since birth. America is a great country because it has the structures to change. It's not like it started well, but it has the structure. Look, I'm not a particular fan of the founding fathers, but I really love that the founding fathers did write a constitution that is flexible. A lot of the purists don't like to say that, but it is flexible. So what I'm saying is we have the ability to make change. We have been becoming a better country. We have been coming closer to our rhetoric. Let's go all the way to become our rhetoric. We can only become our rhetoric if we do what is necessary. My name is Egberto. I forgot to put on my store. My name is Egberto. Okay, I'm going to do it again. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I close out my baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage.